Hello, hello.
Beautiful. We're so happy to see you. The gang's all here. Okay. So happy Monday, everyone. Welcome back to the Be On Air Forum. For those of you who I've already met and those I haven't, my name is Linda Lejeski, and I'm the National Employer Representative of the Be On Air Network of Media Schools. This program is supported by our network, which includes Ohio Media School, Illinois Media School, Colorado Media School, and Miami Media School. Our goal is to bring together our students, our alumni, and our entire community so that you can network and meet industry pros and learn about those topics that are important to the careers you're looking to develop or the careers you're already in. We love to bring you together with our industry experts so you can ask questions and really get some great advice on how to move yourself forward in the areas that you so love. So, welcome aboard. We're happy to have you here. If you're joining us in real time, we're live streaming on YouTube. We invite you to take a peek in. We have a large library of industry pros that have joined us over the last 3 years, and we'd love for you to jump in and get to know them and to learn from them as well. We also want you to know there's a chat option. If you're unfamiliar with this platform, please feel free to hit the little bubble and put your questions in the chat option, and we will get to those as we move along. We're excited to have you here tonight because we have a roundtable, and our roundtable is filled with alumni. And that is just a wonderful thing. We are going to be talking about a topic that's very important and relevant to everybody, and that's how to master the airwaves and how to grow your following and really network with the people that are following you and get them on board so they want to find out more. Here's our roundtable panel. Our guest tonight is Collin Zanker, who is an instructor at Colorado Media School. Collin is also an on air board op with Denver 104.3 The Fan, ESPN. He's an assistant general manager with the Denver Browns baseball team. He's a podcast host of Undrafted and Uncensored. And I think when you get to meet him on this show, you're going to understand why his students really love him so much. He's very engaging, a little bit quirky, and has a wonderful way with people to get them motivated and on board with his ideas. Also joining us are our two infamous instructors. We have Miss Holly Wood, absolutely her real name. Holly is a graduate of Colorado Media School and an instructor of digital media there. She's also a member of our national branding team. She's a singer, a performer, a podcaster. You never know where Holly's going to show up, and she always shows up with great ideas to help you become even more creative. Alongside of her, we have Tony Lopez. Tony is a beloved instructor in our Chicago area, alumni of Illinois Media School. And what makes Tony special is a million things as well. Tony is an influencer, he's a podcast host. You'll find him on TikTok, you'll find him just about any place there's social media. And most importantly, you'll find him with his students really working to elevate them with their projects. Tony's also a member of our national branding team. Together, you have these three experts who are going to share with you ideas of how to grow your network and really the most important part of what you're doing on social media, and that's engaging others and getting them to want your content. So, without further ado, I want you just to relax, sit back, and enjoy this trio and all the great information they're going to share with you. And as we move along, there'll be time for questions, and then I'll come back around at the end. So, Tony, the mic is yours, and welcome.
Thank you, Linda. As always, amazing intros. And every time you do one of those, I just get ready. I feel like running through a wall. But awesome. Awesome to have all of you here on the Be On Air Network Forum. We are happy to have all of you. And we want this hour to be very informational, helpful, and really to inspire anybody, you guys out there to really go do what you love, right? This is why you've gone to school or you want to go to school, whatever that looks like for you. We want to make sure that you have the tools and you kind of have the testimonies from industry professionals to get where you want to be. So thank you, Collin. Thank you for being here as well.
My
Heard some
pleasure.
stuff about you, man. So I can't wait to chat with you here in a second. And of course, Holly, you already know. You're awesome.
Aw. I'm
Well,
happy to be here. This is gonna be fun.
yes, absolutely. We're gonna dive into a couple of things here real quick and talk about what we do. So, Colin, man, we'll start with you first. You're in the sports industry. You know how this is. It can change really quick. But first of all, just talk about your journey. How did you get into sports broadcasting? Now, sports media is what we call it. Was it a passion of yours, or how was your journey in this path?
I mean, in all honesty, it's always been kind of a passion. Never really knew what to do. Growing up when I was a kid, I would always fall asleep to the radio, sports radio at night, and wake up to it. I'm a Denver Broncos. I'm a Colorado sports fan in general, so love the Broncos, but I would still. There's a guy JT the Brick who's really well known among sports circles, and he's a Raiders fan, a diehard Raiders fan. But I would fall asleep listening to him at nights just because I couldn't get enough of it. And I really did not know the route or anything like that and have a lot of direction. And I mean, to go into it about, during COVID, I had a life-changing experience. I had stopped drinking and turned my life around and decided that I was going to start doing things that I wanted to do. And when that happened and I started to make a lot of changes in my life, I realized that this was what I wanted to do. So I got back in touch with the school because I had been through RTB before and never did anything with it. I had never done anything with any of the stuff I learned at the first time. And I made it a point that when I was going back through school that I was going to use it. And so I put everything into learning everything I needed to about radio and podcasting and all the tools available to me to be able to try and go on this journey.
Yeah, everyone's journey is different, and for you to be able to get to that point, man, that's awesome to hear. And do what you love, essentially, right? Because that's what we do. I read here a lot that you do a lot, man. You got a podcast. You're on the Fan. You're also involved with the Denver Browns baseball. Am I reading that correctly?
Yeah, the Denver Browns baseball club. So we were a semi-pro team here in Denver locally, and right now we're forming from the baseball club to a tournament team where we basically play in a World Series type of format down in Arizona every year, which is really awesome. We play on all the minor league fields. A few years ago, our home field was the Chicago Cubs, but the championship was always in Tempe Diablo Stadium. And then we'll run clinics throughout the Denver area as a nonprofit. So the team itself, we don't have the full on season team that we used to have, but that, like I said, is because we're in the process of transforming into that nonprofit, putting on things. One of our slogans is, support local baseball and baseball for kids. So we just want to share that passion. For me, I love baseball. It's one of the things that I travel around and watch the Rockies on the road, which I'm sure we'll get into at some point. But baseball is my game, and it's kind of a dying sport in a lot of ways. So to be able to get out there and support and have kids play the game that I love and share that passion of mine, it's something that I enjoy. And I enjoy playing too, even though I'm, not as good as I used to be.
Are you sure we're not brothers, man? Because everything you said in that last question was me. I'm with you, man. It's just I'm in Chicago, and I'm a Sox fan, and we're not. It's just really bad. So maybe
I don't want to try and compare, but the Rockies are kind of bad. I was looking. I might be out there on the 28th of this month. So we'll get together if I do win or if I do book that. I'll let you know about 24 hours in advance. That's how I travel.
We can both cry together in the stands. We'll do that. How about that?
Yes.
That's awesome, Colin, man. Being in sports media, and Holly, I'm going to get to you in a second, but being in sports media is a whole nother. It's a whole nother level of, I think it's a whole nother category when it comes to media, because it's every day information is changing. And of course, not only that, but you do have things that happen not only on the field, but you have to talk about back offices, right? And what's going on with general managers and what moves are being made and so forth. Do you find that part of it maybe more difficult than maybe another type of industry or another type of media per se when it comes to sports in general?
There are aspects when you point that out, yes, but also the desire that I have and the passion that I have with sports is one of those that all the information that comes in, it's kind of become just second nature, whether it be the back channel things that you hear and what you can and can't say. That's also a very important part of this industry is there are conversations that you have that you can't really talk about, but you have to learn to hint about.
Yeah.
So I mean, I absorb all of it, and I've been in a few industries. I know we talk about baseball, but I've been a chef for a long time and in the kitchen, so there's high pressure and memories and things like that. And I think that when you look at sports and the sports radio industry, it's about what you want to consume and knowing your audience. That's really your biggest key. There are areas when I travel, I always listen to sports radio, and when I was in Atlanta last year, I was like, oh, they're talking a lot about NASCAR. If I want to work in Atlanta, I was like, I better learn about NASCAR, taking left turns, which in Colorado, we just don't talk about that. But
Yeah.
I really do just kind of absorb it all. And it is a little different than some other media because you don't hear as many backstories. The only backstories and some things you hear are the ones that make the news. But you got to form a lot of friendships and relationships with people.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's awesome right there. Holly, I know you very well. Holly does a lot. And I recently found out that she's also in the music industry, a musician. And I'm a musician, and I'm like, Holly, how do I not know this about you? But Holly also being involved in media and a very talented person when it comes to social media, marketing, influencing, and things of that nature. Holly, why did you join the media industry? What brought you in to be able to do this?
I'm glad you brought that up because I was thinking about that with Collin. We have a bunch of students in here right now, right? Or and alumni. I'm checking the chat. But what brought me was radio originally, hearing a radio ad. And like you, Collin, except for talk, it wasn't talk radio for me. It was music. I anytime there was a new song, I was flipping the tape deck over and recording it until the poor tape couldn't record anymore. Always had a love for music. And through the media school, there was one project that I fell in love with and didn't expect to, and that was podcasting. I found out that my dad had Alzheimer's, and I didn't want to, not have a chance to record a story of him talking about me being a rascal. And Tony, when you say, yes, singer, they call me Bad Holly out in Colorado. And that's because Good Holly was taken. So I have to live up to that sometimes.
Doing a great job.
As you'll see on my social media, I like to push the boundaries of fun and funny, but if it wasn't for this media school and this opportunity, and that's kind of like when I first met Collin, there's just a difference in somebody like it. There's a focus, and when I met Collin for the first time, he had that focus, and I was curious when you were talking, if I can throw you a question on. Like when you were in the broadcasting school, and I was kind of shocked to hear that you were in it and then you came back for emphasis, right?
Yeah.
What was that one project that turned the light on for you?
I really think it was probably just, well, it would have to be the live shows. I mean, in all honesty, you start doing a live show, and when you start class and wherever some of you might be who are listening, and you think about doing 5 minutes alone of talking, 10, 15 minutes, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, well, you're going to do a 3-hour show. No, never. And then you get done with those 2 or 3 hour shows and you're like, wait, there's more here. Hold on. No, we're not going home. Keep the lights on. Like, I'm sorry, guys. This isn't ending. But it is until tomorrow when there's a whole brand new slate of amazing things to talk about. And that was it. It was just once it got to that point, it was like, oh, we can keep this going. And that's part of having great people around you and that you're working with, because it really is just having a conversation with each other. But when I sat there at the end, was like, hold on, there's like 20 more things on my rundown that I got to talk about. We're not done.
See, that's perfect. Live shows, yes, there's that heartbeat for sure, right? So that was the thing that turned it on for you. What was your opportunity out of Sports Emphasis?
Well, right away, I had obviously worked hard, and 104.3 The Fan was basically a longtime radio station. It is a longtime radio station here in Denver, and that's the one that carried JT the Brick, and that I fell asleep to. Like I said, they've changed some call letters, but it's basically been the ESPN radio affiliate here in Denver for a long time. And they had a job opening. I put it through. I asked my instructor at the time, because he knew our PD, if he could put in a good word for me. Obviously, nothing is guaranteed, but went in to my interview, and I was just ready, and I had the confidence that I could do or learn whatever I needed to, because I knew my foundation was good, and every word's going to be a little different, but I knew I was ready, and I was excited about it. So,
hearing both of you, it brings me to my next question. And, we all have that experience. I mean, me included, where we did it. We did it once. We said, we did it again. And we said, yeah, like, okay, we're going to do this. And so, when it comes to that, you start to build even you can even say your own business of sorts, right? Where you're hosting and you're networking with people. You're providing content, whatever that looks like: sports, music, entertainment. And that when it comes to that, there's that word that we always talk about. It's called network, right? How do you build your network? I myself, I'm a musician. I'm in sports media myself. I do a boxing show with Kendall Gill, former NBA player, and I'm consistently every day on, of course, social media, looking for the latest boxing news, because boxing changes every day like sports does. But I'll ask both of you, how do you build a robust network? How do you build that network to where people start to follow you, and start to really, I guess, depend on you for news that is breaking, or for just being entertained in general? How do you do that? I'll start with Collin.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of ways that you can do that. One thing I will say, that to go back to what you kind of started with being in school and coming back, I mean, Undrafted Uncensored started at the media school with my co-host Connor, who is now gone. And you'll go through bumps and things in the road as you go along. And, unfortunately, Connor, he's no longer part of the show, and two of the other guys, but we moved on. And so this all, like, the ideas, the thoughts, it all started while I was at the school. And so it's moved into 103 episodes, and that networking, we got picked up, our show, by E5280 Sports here in Denver. So we're on their network also. And that was from a connection that I had from 104.3 The Fan. But I go out and travel. I have a personal, I won't spend any money in Colorado at Colorado Rockies games. I'll go. I won't put any dollars in the pockets of ownership, just because I don't have trust in what they're doing. So I go on the road and watch the Rockies. And that's one of my big things. I'll spend my money traveling, watching them in other cities, just so I don't put money directly into an ownership group that I don't approve of's pockets. And so while I'm out there, I always talk about the show. I tell people to listen. I was just in Oakland, San Francisco and Oakland 2 weekends ago, and was talking to a guy. One of the Rockies players threw me a ball in the stands, threw it over my head. The guys behind me ended up giving it back to me. And I was like, hey, listen to the show this next weekend on Saturday, and you'll hear your name. I was like, thank you, Alex. And now he's on twice. He got double dipped. Alex, thank you very much for returning the baseball to a Rockies fan from a Rockies player. But just talking to people, because I love going out and hearing other people's stories and talking to them about the game I love. So when I'm visiting all of these stadiums, I'm just, I'm promoting the brand, and sure, maybe one person out of 50 listens, but that's one more person that in New York or San Francisco or Austin or Houston, anywhere, that I never would have been able to reach or talk to. And who knows who else they tell about it.
Holly?
I get lucky because of my name. I like to tell people I was marinated in marketing, but when you're living your life's path and your dream, it's infectious. You just have that, like, oh, I'm happy. I don't know who I'm going to meet tomorrow, an hour from now. And life is just that. You can have the right person standing in front of you, and really all it is how you present yourself, right? So if lift yourself up out of the gloom doom and give yourself an opportunity like that, right? So when I'm looking at all these students and alumni in chat, the one thing that I also do in digital is when I tell my students, like, how are you introducing yourself to me? It's not like, hi, I'm Joe. Joe, tell me more, Joe, right? My name's Hollywood. I'm part of the Be On Air network, and I'm a digital creator, right? It definitely it spins some curiosity, and like I said, I get lucky because of my name. I think it's gonna be. I had the guy at the airport this couple days ago take my ID and start singing Hollywood to me, so he knows who I am, kind of. But
I don't think I believed you for 6 months.
I'm telling you. But even having the opportunity out here in like Siesta Key to, like, hi, who's your manager? Is there a manager here? And seeing the band's manager, asking him if he's, are you booking the bands? Well, who are you, little miss? Well, this little miss is Band Holly, and I'd love to, take a week off and come down to Siesta Key and sing, So I'm bold like that too, though. I'm very bold, and I guess you kind of have to be. But you never know who's going to be in front of you, and if it's something you want, you got to go get it. It just starts with a handshake, most of the time.
Hey man, it's crazier things
Tony?
Yeah.
Yeah,
What's your secret?
You're like the podcast mingler. No joke. I'm like, how many podcasts is he on?
Well, that's awesome. Actually, what's cool about that? My next question was going to lead into podcasting anyway, so we'll pivot there. Podcasting is huge now. I mean, I can literally. It feels like everybody has a podcast, right? And back when I was in school, and I guess prior 2020, podcasting was kind of like a what's the word I want to use? It was just a it was just, if you had a podcast,
it's more foundation.
Yeah.
Now it's more freeform. Yeah, it was pretty. Yeah.
Now it's exactly, it's the thing, right? Exactly, Holly. It's the thing. And so when I run my podcast myself, I know that there needs to be information flowing at all times throughout the week when you post, and now we have Reels with Instagram and Facebook, and of course you have Twitter and X and all that stuff. Collin, how do you think podcasting has affected the media world? Is it in anything really, in sports and entertainment? How has it affected to where now it's almost like people lean on that for their entertainment, even for their news breaking?
Well, leading on it is exactly the right word. I mean, honestly, people are looking more so for information from people that they know, that they trust, that aren't these TV show anchors or, just a regular person, me, you, anyone out there. You talk about the growth of podcasting. One of the shows out here who's gotten really big is That's Good Sports. And he started off, he actually did a show at the media school, and I was there at one point. It was really just funny because I was in awe, and he was probably, maybe less than 100,000 subscribers, and now he's over 600,000. It's just kind of like, whoa, it blows up. But you feel like you're getting this information from the person, the person you're sitting next to at a restaurant, or your friend, at a bar, whatever. It's that type of connection that you have with these people, and answering of questions or having a real conversation, where sometimes when you look on TV, these people seem unreachable. They're too Hollywood, you might say.
So true. Holly, what about you?
I like how you said, you want to listen to whose opinion you don't think is paid for, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I like to listen to a lot of the self-help stuff. I do. I do, because that's a constant evolve, you know. There's nothing wrong there. And if you're spiritual and I'm listening to it. And that's only because I about a couple of years ago was laughing at meditation. I'm like, good Lord, good Lord. But really, it's there's so much you can do now when it comes to podcasting and even getting on like Google Trends. If you have a daily podcast and then using what is trending in your SEO to pop up there. So if any of you guys are budding podcasters, the first thing you want to be doing is go right to Google Trends, see what's happening, see what's relatable to you that you can talk about. And the more you do that, the more relevant you're going to be and the more eyes are going to be on your podcasts. But podcasts are huge and they no longer have to be an hour. You know, now there's like 5 minutes, your daily dose, you know, with Ban Holly, what not to eat and Siesta Key. But I'll tell you, I love it. And I like that one, it just kind of really takes one to take off. And then once you gather those legs, hang on to the running horse, right? So
One.
I'm curious if there's any podcasters in our audience.
I wanted to piggyback, Holly, when you said, yeah, it only takes one. Sometimes you never know what it's going to be either. I've talked to Holly about this. I think it was on my trip to when I was on my way either to Miami earlier this year, Arizona. I had a snap that blew up with well over like 5,000 people who viewed it. And I didn't, needless to say, it wasn't anything out of the ordinary. It was just kind of me doing something. And I realized afterwards, it's like, I didn't even mention my podcast name. You don't know what it's going to be. So you always got to be promoting yourself. Just as Holly was saying when she was at the concerts and everything, talking to the hosts, always be promoting yourself and your brand and what you're doing at the moment. Because if people start to follow you in one place, they'll follow you to the next place as well.
You know, the chat's lighting up with podcasters. That was a great question, Holly. I like that. Yeah, all podcasters, man, make some noise in the comment section. We want to know who you are, without a doubt, because we love our podcasters. And you guys both just made a huge point here, and this is something that it's hard. I wouldn't say it's hard to do, but it's something that you have to put a lot of work into, and it's that posting frequency. And so, on your podcast, Collin and Holly and myself, as I mentioned, one of the things that I do is I'll post an episode a week, a full throttle episode. So you're looking at like a 30 to 45-minute episode. We see that with Club Shay Shay, who's one of the biggest podcasts. I think is the top podcast in the world right now with Shannon Sharp.
Denver Bronco.
Bill Murray has a podcast. I mean, you name it. They all have their separate podcasts. They put it out that week, and then what you're seeing is clips, 1-minute clips, almost a day of the episode that they put that week. And that leads them to, hey, go look at the full podcast, the full episode on the channel, whatever that is, YouTube, their own website, whatever that looks like. Is that something that you guys see as beneficial? And if not, what do you guys think would grow an audience or would be smart for posting frequency? Because that's huge now.
Well, yeah, okay. I was gonna say yes. It's actually literally it is. No, you're fine. I was gonna let Holly go first. I fully agree that it's huge, and it's one of those things that's been on my list. And some of these things that you're talking about, it can be intimidating to start it, and it is for me too. Even at this moment, because it's like, okay, how am I gonna find all these clips? What's all this extra work gonna be? I'm not going to hire anybody. I do it all myself, or, between the three of us. And in all honesty, I've talked to people. We have a very successful podcast at the radio station, and they're doing the clips throughout the week. And the great part about a lot of what I do is kind of strategically placed, I guess. And I'm not saying that I'm working at the station just for, strategically. I love being at the station, but also I get to learn from what they're doing and what's working for the radio station and what's working for those individuals also who do their own podcast. And so I've been talking to them about, some of them are doing the shotgun type approach where they just put a bunch of different clips out at once and let it go. And some are doing detailed oriented every hour or every, day at this time you have a podcast. I'm a lot like you, Tony, where our podcast during the non-football season is once a week. Typically we go live every Saturday. But you try and keep that consistency throughout the week. I try and bring something back, especially when I have something to throw in the face of one of my co-hosts. I like to post that we'll be talking about how I was right and they were wrong later on in the week, and kind of egging it on and starting the conversation by posting previous clips of shows that we had done. So I keep all those in a log, or I keep a lot of them, and there's still more that I would love to cut up. But yeah, I think those clips as you go along, which you can find through, there's a lot of different resources that you can use. But yeah, I would love to do it every day, some sort of clip. That's a great idea.
There's so many things out there if you are doing that once a week thing in your video. And I see Dawn saying that she's too afraid she's going to flop. You are the most charismatic thing in the world, let me tell you. But the one thing here, say you have a 45-minute video, right? You're exhausted. Now you're like, okay, now I have to have social media for about a week. What do I do? Well, there's this little app called Video AI, and I'll pop the link in chat, where all you're doing is taking you might have to edit it down for 30 minutes to keep it free, but it will splice up social media clips for you using an algorithm that is either 15 seconds to 60 seconds. So for all social platforms, even for stories, right? But then you've got something all week, or to tease your next episode, right? It's something that in this world of AI, where we're expected to have all these things, and that's what people are doing out there. They're throwing their 45-minute video in Video AI, and socials are done in 2 minutes. And it's really neat to see what it picks out. I think that's my favorite part. So what it does is it does free, I think it's $7.20. And then what happens is you'll get an email when you join. I should be their spokesperson. And when you get the email says, here's a half hour for free. So once a month, you have 45 minutes for free. So if you do a killer podcast and just throw it in there, you're going to wake up with stuff to post in the morning. It's really just get in your flow, right? It's starting the week off on a Monday. Like I said, go check those Google Trends, see what's happening, see how you can mainstream it, right? And using all those AIs to support you, because there's people doing it. That's why they're flooding the airwaves with their stuff. So I'm going to let you chit chat with another question, and I'm going to find that link and put it in chat.
Yeah, for sure. And just to piggyback off of what you're saying, Holly, one of the things I use for short film, like for short videos and so forth, obviously you have your main production with your cameras and your podcast and audio. Everyone, Adobe Audition, right? The industry standard, and whatever you're using to cut, and maybe Adobe Premiere. But when it comes to cutting those clips, one thing I use is CapCut, man. And CapCut has been the lifesaver for, I've personally known many people using it on the daily, like I am, because cutting the videos are so easy to do. It's user friendly. If you don't have CapCut, I encourage all of you out there, definitely give it a download. It's very intimidating at first when you open it and you're like seeing all the options and so forth. But once you do that, it's like a bicycle, like riding a bicycle. You just keep doing it over and over, repetition, and you start to understand the program itself. But CapCut really does help a lot when it comes to cutting things short. It has an AI type of service in regards to auto-generating captions as well. As you guys all know, when we're watching these reels, not only are we watching it, but now we get to read what they're saying, right? And captions are a big deal now. It makes your video more viewable, right? And ironically, as you're watching the video, you're not even watching the person anymore. You're just looking at the text. I don't know if you guys experienced that, but now you're just reading it with them, right, as they're talking. And so it auto generates that for you as well, gives you a couple of options and so forth. And you have different other services. I should be spokesman for CapCut. Oh my goodness, how got me inspired? What am I doing?
And we have another webinar. It'll be the one actually a couple before this one. So I actually had a webinar on CapCut. So if you're in the beginning stages of that, go back and check our lives. You'll definitely see that. And also, don't be a stranger to our Be On Air podcast network. I can tell you, just looking at that, talking to me, and then John Gerard, he will help you market yourself. So Dawn, that's going to be a good step for you. So don't forget our Be On Air podcast network. Plug. I had to do it because I'm on it.
You know, and I wanted to let the audience know as well. We're gonna open the floor to questions in about 8 minutes here. So please, at around 6:15 Central Time, 5:15 Mountain Time. If you're on the East Coast, obviously it's 7:15. Around 8 minutes or so, please get your questions ready. You can even put them in the chat now. We want to answer as many questions as possible throughout the hour here on the forum. But we're gonna open it up to Q&A here in a bit. So please get those questions ready. We are excited to talk to you guys on the forum. Collin, man, you know, I'm gonna go back to kind of your specialties here, right? Which is sports. You know, AI. We talked about CapCut. We talked about, you know, kind of different tools here. Do you experience yourself you're out, whether that is doing your podcast at the baseball game, right, or at the fan? Do you experience using different tools, different editing programs, software? To get your content out quickly, or maybe throughout the week? What is your experience like using any of the programs or tools?
I mean, honestly, the programs and tools, it's more of using different platforms and keeping all of those fresh. You know, I might have something that I throw up on Snapchat that's not on Twitter, X, whatever we're going with these days. You know, I don't think that's ever gonna be a Twizzlers Red Vine debate for years. What's better? What's it supposed to be? You know. I keep, you know, Facebook, Instagram, whatever platform it is that I'm kind of up on there. That's one of those things, also keeping it fresh so that people are following you on multiple different levels. And that's been one of my approaches with that. But posting directly, yeah, sometimes you are cutting some stuff from your phone, having conversations when I'm out talking to people at baseball games. You just have those moments that you just want to share with people. And as you go along, as I've gone along, I should say, in this journey, what I found is that I have a big, grandiose idea of doing a big documentary about all the stadiums that I'm visiting and doing. But my life, and you know, my life is crazy hectic. We're busy. It's like, why don't I just do something for every stadium I'm going to? And I'm in the process of starting. I'm not going to start. It has been started, of doing just a simple, smaller cut to make my life easier on each stadium rather than this one big project. Because sometimes when you make something so big and grandiose, it's tough to fathom how it's going to come together. And that's still tough for me to fathom. I can see it like pieces here and there, but I was just, I think it was right before I went to Miami. It's just like, why don't I make my life a little bit easier? Excuse me, Oakland and San Francisco. It's like, I'm going to make my life easier and just start to cut this down and do something more consistently and have that type of thing out. And so there'll be more promotions from that, because I have specific clips just from recording and talking to people on my phone that I can naturally promote they don't need to be cut. They're going to be part of the 15-minute show, whatever it ends up being.
That's why I'm psyched you use Snapchat. I every time I have a student that comes in, I'm like, yeah, we got a snapper. It's smart because it's a little vlog for you, you know. And when you get to that point where you do want to show somebody, now think of back when we were all locked up, 2020, right? People weren't going out to interviews, and their way around that was to video themselves.
Yeah.
And show, I mean, that's partially you're showing somebody how comfortable you are in front of the camera, essentially, so doing that, I mean, it's bold, and I'm psyched every time I hear that somebody's a Snapchatter. And that's the wave, so.
Well, Holly, and you speak on Snapchat heavily all the time, and when we have our meetings and so forth, people. I don't think people realize Snapchat is a platform that has subscribers. People actually subscribe to accounts to see daily whatever the influencer is doing.
That's where Collin crushed it.
Yeah,
and I didn't even know I crushed it. I'm literally after that thing. After I was like, oh, it's been viewed over 5,000 times. It's like I was at the airport, or I was at the basketball game, and I just tagged the place I was at. And I'm learning now just to add in all of those things and events, because people around you see it. People who check into places will see, well, this is what whoever has done here at some point. There are a lot of layers, and in no way, shape, or form am I a pro at it. You'll see some of my videos be like, how is that 5,000 people? I don't know either, but it works. Yeah. So I'm going to keep doing it.
Yeah.
It's a pretty easy approach.
It's almost in the nature of TikTok, because obviously TikTok is almost like that, but TikTok now has the ability, to in any platform you can post any episodes and just take clips over and post them. But it's Snapchat has the TikTok ability of sorts, right? It's just more personal. It almost feels like when it comes to that. But yeah, snappers, as you say, Holly. It's people know that. I see the chat. People did not know that, right? And so it's always good to know. I definitely encourage all of you, if you have content, whatever that is, doesn't matter what it is, man, get it up there on any other platform, Snapchat especially. And I'm gonna give you one more question here before we get to Q&A. Like algorithms, right? The algorithm, that word algorithm, came after 2018, 2019 kind of, and then 2020 hit, and it was like, oh, TikTok and algorithms, right? If you don't post, you don't get seen. It's just a simple concept. You don't post,
you're not relevant.
Exactly.
That's the harsh truth, right? So then you want a job in the media industry, and they go to look you up. You don't post.
Yep, absolutely.
Collin, no, so serious.
It's really pretty simple. It really is.
Kyle, how many times were you posting during that journey where you blew up there on Snap? Like, how did you do it? Were you just posting every day, consistently, more than once a day? How'd it go for you?
I mean, it's tough to say if it was consistently, or I don't want to say not consistently. Yeah, I mean, probably something every day, especially when I'm traveling and out doing my sports stuff. I'm posting every Sunday when I have a baseball game. I post something on Snapchat. And usually I'll post something about it, or once again, I'll talk crap about my co-host, and fun, just like I said, egging them on and doing things. But it was more about messing around with it. And then that's when I found, I can, this is the arena. Oh, why don't I just do hashtag nuggets, or, future champs or something, and just messing around. Sometimes you mess around enough and you can get lucky. And once I got lucky, I was like, oh, that's what works. And so I started when I'm at the games, tagging the city, tagging the stadium, tagging the restaurant that I went to beforehand. Restaurants are huge. They're not a sponsor, but people who go to those restaurants will see, once again, your post. Even if you were like, oh yeah, I just ate here, and then I came to the baseball game, and then I ate a hot dog here. They see it because it pops up on the Snap history and the Snap map, which
it's a new reference.
Yeah, there's just, consistency is there, but it's learning and messing around with it and finding what works and what works for your audience too. Because once that one blew up, all of a sudden it was friend requests and people who want to follow me. Like, these things just came flooding through. I don't think I had that many friend requests since, Facebook became open to everybody not in college, for those of you who don't know about that.
Many don't.
Yeah, many don't.
That's awesome, man. Before we get to our questions and our Q&A section here, there's one question that's on the docket, and I have to ask it because it almost feels like a formality when we do these. So don't laugh, both of you. But what would you tell your younger selves? Collin, we'll start with you.
You know,
And I mean, even started in media.
The God's honest truth is that. So these days, I work a lot. I'm still a chef at a hotel. I do the sports radio. I do my podcast. I do the baseball thing. I do a lot of different things. And if I had this same drive years ago, if I had wanted to work this hard, it would have, I would be in different places. Now, don't get me wrong and twist that. I love where I'm at. I mean, I am living a dream right now, traveling, doing all the things that I want. And I've been very smart with setting it up that way. You know, I work at hotels, so I get discounted hotels. I bought a travel pass, so I travel for basically $30 round trip. I made a lot of smart decisions along the way, but once you find your passion, go after it. Like, you don't have to wait. You don't have to have experience. Whatever you love and whatever it is, just go and don't let things stop you, because yeah, like I said, I do all these other jobs. I get up at sometimes I basically get up at 4 a.m. every day, and some nights I'm not done until 10:30 at night. And it sounds crazy, but all those things allow me to do what I'm doing now. And it's amazing. So whatever it is, just drive and keep going. Don't let anything stop you, and find a way to make it work. There's so many ways that you can not make excuses, and you can find a way to make things work. I am not rich. I do not make a lot of money, but I found a way to travel all over the country, go to stadiums, do all these things because I found a way. I found a loophole. Find your own loophole.
Yeah. Holly.
For me, I would tell my younger self to only hang out with people who lift me up. And you are going to be a singer, and they're going to call you Bad Holly, but you didn't do anything bad. Really. And I think I always have, or until I understood I couldn't hang out with that person. I mean, we all been there, right? Oh, but really, keeping your circle small, getting a place where when you get to that point where you are performing, podcasting, teaching, doing it all, multiple podcasts, there's just going to be a time where when you do release, it should be around the perfect people that, no matter what, just holds you in the highest regard. And that is something at a younger age, I wish I could tell myself, because I think I would have weeded through some people faster. That's the truth. What about you, Tony?
Yeah, no, I would tell myself stop being afraid, or don't be afraid, right? A lot of my personal experiences of just afraid to take that leap, right? Afraid to do that, or thinking about the negative. Oh, well, what if it doesn't work? And what if I'm wasting my time? And what if I'm, losing out on an opportunity? I mean, it's just negative thoughts, right? And so I would tell myself, like, don't be afraid, man. Don't be afraid to fail. Michael Jordan said it best. He said you're gonna fall 50,000 times, right? You got to get back up. And so that fear of failing was prevalent when I first started. And I would tell myself, don't be afraid, because you're gonna meet so many different people, and you will find a way to, like you said, weed out who you need to weed out and get through that journey, and you'll be fine. So if anybody out there is experiencing fear of failing, right, of wasting your time, right, you never know you never know where you can go until you actually do it. You got to give yourself a chance, and that's what I would tell my younger self, and that's what I'm telling all of you. So,
and even too, when you fail or make a mistake, it doesn't have to define you. Like that is not the end of the road for anyone. I could have said, all these things are done because of these things. all the failures, I could have just stopped and considered myself, written off. But you have the chance to change all that, and you don't have to let those one failures, because let's be honest, we all screw up on our shows. I mean, none of us have had the perfect show. I mean, if I have a perfect show, I'm dropping this mic and I'm done. But, like, it just doesn't happen. But it's not being too hard on yourself and loving it.
Yeah, absolutely. During this section, I wish you would have had some music. Linda, we got to work on this, getting some music.
I do have a video of Collin that I recorded because I want you to talk about your buddies that you still kind of podcast with, and you have to give a good, like, paint the picture of these characters before I play this, because you're going to see a video of these two characters, and then you're going to see Collin in a little box just getting all Collin, and I hope you're excited to see this. But
so Nick, both Nick and Joe, who I met at the school, they were not in my class, but Nick has actually called baseball games and done play for the Denver Browns. We're good friends. We hang out. Same thing with Joe. Nick is kind of the host role of the show. Sometimes I just take it over, which I believe is what I'm doing here in this moment. And it's keeping it fresh too. I surprise these guys. As I said, we normally broadcast Saturday, afternoons here in Denver, but we had a Friday night show just because all of our schedules are crazy. Nick does a lot of stuff. And so as we were recording Friday, I had to find something that just stirred everything up and threw them off of their game and keeps everyone on their toes.
Are we ready? Here we go.
Run it.
Welcome to the undrafted, uncensored cast of Pod. Hosted by Nick Archuleta. Mosted by Collin Zanker. And last but certainly is least, Joseph Goodwin.
Boss, you know we finally here, right?
Well,
It's Friday then, it's Saturday, Sunday, what? It's Friday then, it's Saturday, Sunday, what? It's Friday again, it's live comeback.
I love it so much.
Oh man,
That's the energy we need.
It
It was great.
was fun. Nick's trying to be serious. I'm just, you got to have fun. If you're not having fun, I mean, maybe go to classical radio.
That's awesome, man. And that's what it's all about. For everyone out there watching us, we're talking about technicalities, and we're talking about programs, and we're talking about algorithms, and our journeys. But really, at the end of the day, when it comes down to it, we're doing what we love and we're having fun, right? And if that doesn't bring happiness to you, I don't know what would. And so we encourage all of you really to press, go get it. Don't be afraid. Grow that audience, post, learn some of the programs, or learn something that's easy for you, and then build on it. Don't stress yourself. Don't overwhelm yourself and try to learn something in one day. You're going to grow with it. Right. And so that's with any program that you do. And then you get to do stuff like Collin, travel and stay. I'm jealous, bro. You're traveling stadiums, man.
Yes.
Holly, man. Holly's so multifaceted. She just does that. Every time I hear her name, I'm like, Holly does everything. That's what comes to my head. So
there was someone in the comments that said something about singing, but what happened with me is I had kids in my early 20s and was like mama first, right? And then it got to the time where it was, okay, they're doing homework. It's kind of hard. But there came a time, and that's when I heard that radio commercial for the Colorado Media School, and I went knowing that no matter what, it would help my singing career, or that's what I wanted. And I started by searching hashtags like Denver open mic, Beth to sing, and I searched and this guy kept coming up. His name is Denny the Music Man. I call him the Music Man out here. So I went into this open mic knowing who this person was, and that famous handshake, I'm Hollywood, the Be On Air Network. Can I get on stage? And the next thing you know, I think in less than 2 weeks, I had a full band.
That's
but
awesome.
Searching hashtags and having the opportunity of the school behind me kind of felt like a really good loving umbrella.
Yeah.
So I see that. You go for it. But there's a lot of stuff that you can do behind the keyboard too to kind of set yourself up so you're not wasting valuable resources.
We did have a question popped up there. Oh, it went away. It was a funny one though. You saw it, right?
Yeah. That's the co-host. That's my co-host, Nick. Nick, I know how big of a Barry Manilow fan you are. I just want you to know I made it through the rain, and even now I can't smile without you. So,
so nice. Nick, I hope you're satisfied with the response.
And then he should know he should call me the Prophet, as been given my nickname.
Oh,
that's what you're calling it, because I call him.
Yeah, so I have my predictions. I had one March Madness where I was in like the 98th percentile of brackets on ESPN.
This year?
No, not this year. This is when I was in school in 2021. But last year's March Madness, I had a dream of San Diego State going to the championship game and beating Alabama. And so I had a dream. And so let's just say I followed that dream and was very happy with that. And I talked about that on one of the shows. So I've been nicknamed the Prophet for multiple reasons. And that even, we're going back to the shows. One way to tie people in is have something consistent. We have a segment called the Victory Formation where we do real bets, but with fake money, and we keep track of it all year long. And it's kind of a fun segment that we do every show.
Nice.
We have a good question.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
We have a good question.
Yeah, absolutely. Did you want to read it, Holly?
Oh, sure. This is from Derek Leon. Collin, was there a time that you felt that you knew your weakness, overcame it, only to find out that it wasn't a weakness?
I mean, in all honesty, I know I mentioned it to start. I was going to drink myself to death during COVID, and I don't want to get too dark, but that was in control of my life. I was in a very crazy bad spot. And as far as that weakness goes, it was very addictive. I couldn't live without it. And so once I decided that I was going to get out of it, coming up on about 4 years now, like once I decided that I was going to get out of it, it wasn't going to be there. And just as determined as I was to go drinking and do that every night, I'm just as determined to have that same attitude towards my podcast, towards, doing the things that I want to do. I'm stubborn in a lot of ways that way. People told me that I would never be able to, lay off the booze. Well, guess what? I'm still proving you wrong, and all of these other things. I'm just kind of a stubborn guy that way, that I'm going to prove y'all wrong. It's okay, no matter what. So yeah, as far as weakness, I don't know if you want to say that's the addiction portion or the, just diving into something. But yeah, that was something that I look back on it. And as I sit here today, if I can overcome that and how close I literally was, I went to the hospital and my blood was not running through my system. If I didn't go, I wouldn't be here today.
Wow.
You fell in love with life again.
And yeah. And after that, it's just, there's no way that anything that comes in my path can be as difficult as that change and transformation because of where my life was at that moment in time.
That's awesome, man.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, gladly.
I mean, looking at you, you just look like you're, come on, laugh. Let's go have some fun.
It's true. Charge.
You're living for it, which is great. And I think it's it's nice to have something to look back at. And that was a great question, Derek. I'm like, for real, because it's not something that we want to open up. That's the part of us that either needed a lot of healing, but it's so nice to have life, another path open up in front of you that's brighter. So
yeah, I've had a second chance at life, in all honesty, and that's kind of why, like, not that there's no fear of failing or making mistakes, but when I do, it's okay. Well, that happened. Like, we'll figure out whatever else is next, because, like I said, we're all gonna screw up, and it's okay. And when you screw up, just own up to it and move on. Sometimes that's all you can do. Learn from it.
Absolutely. That's exactly, you move on. You just got to keep going. It is what it is. Just learn from it and build. So that's what you have to do, without a doubt. You're absolutely right, Collin. Are there any more questions? I mean, I'm trying to look at the chat here. I know Linda's popping them up.
Oh, we got it. Somebody wants to connect. Yes, you can connect with me. Bad Holly on Instagram. Always, and I can always put my email in the chat too. Be happy to, if you want to write me an email.
Yes.
Be happy to take anybody from our organization under my wing. But I'm trying to see if there's any more great show. Any more questions before we wrap it up? We got the drum roll going.
Absolutely. We got time for one more question for sure. I just want to shout out some people out here like Derek, Quincy, Dawn, who's been out here consistently, Jose, ETF Entertainment as well, Nick, your guy, Derek De Leon with the question. Thank you, Cheeky Poo 22, who's been on here as well. More old school was on. Chit Chat with Knack. Hey, Chit Chat, how you doing? UNI podcast as well. Calvin is a regular. Outlaw Flyer has been on the chat, and also I see here Illusion Entertainment 216, who's been on the chat. So thank you guys for your comments as well, and all that. We do have one more question popping in here. The question is, failing is more scary. Oh, this is a comment. I think failing is more scary than success. I mean, it's definitely scary to fail, right? As we were mentioning before. But like Collin was talking about, you got to take that failure or whatever that is and just kind of say, okay.
I really, oh, sorry. I was just gonna say, I really think the thought of failure is more scary than the success. Like when you consistently focus on something like your failures, or what could go wrong, I think you naturally tend to make those things manifest in your life. All the bad things that could happen. So when you worry so much about failing rather than about the great things that could happen if you do this, and you just kind of say, who cares if it sucks and I screw it up?
Right.
Then you're more likely to not screw it up and have fun and enjoy it rather than fail. So it's about where your focus is, where your mindset is, and changing that shift in your mindset that, failure is a possibility, but it's not what I'm going to focus on or worry about. I'm going to focus on these steps that I'm taking to be successful. And if they don't work, once again, back to the drawing board. Who cares? I'm the only person keeping track of the failures in your life is yourself. So nobody else cares in a way about your failures. They want to know about how you made it. And then you can tell your failure stories about how you became a success.
Facts on facts on facts on facts.
How do we reach you? How do we reach you, Collin?
At Collin Zanker on X. You can always email me if you're through the school platform. You can see Zanker at beyonair.com. Find me on Undrafted Uncensored. Snapchat at Zanctified. You can find me. I'm around, but I'm more than happy to reach out to anyone on Facebook. Obviously, it's my name. But regardless of what it is, it does not have to be podcast. It could be life related. I want everyone to live a happy, successful life. And like I said, I might be a sports guy, but if you want to talk to me about your music podcast and you want an opinion from an outside person, that's also something too. Sorry. watch stuff that you like and don't like as you go through it, because you'll get things that you do and don't like, and you'll learn how to do your shows that way. But get opinions from people outside of your circle that you know, because it really helps you grow your audience and it gets you a little bit more comfortable with, you know, all walks of life and even talking to more people. So, sorry, one more little nugget.
You know what? There's never too many nuggets. They're so wonderful. And I think for everybody, it's that fear sometimes of success that keeps people from doing things. Like, what do I do if I'm really good at it? How do I sustain that? You know, that's the other side of the question. And, you know, if you don't get out there and you don't start, you're never going to be at a point any further. So for everybody on, don't be afraid of that first, because people really don't notice when you stink. They really start to notice when other people are talking about how good you are. So you gotta get some miles in, right, before you're going to get really good. So I loved it. You know, Collin, you said something that I want everybody to think about as we close out tonight. You said, find a way to make it work. Find your own loophole. And you know, that's really powerful, because we're all in charge of what we're doing, right, for ourselves. Nobody can really take you one way or the other. It's up to you. So find those things that are going to help and support you. Find your group. Like I think Holly said, she would have surrounded herself with people like that smaller group that wanted to raise her up. All of that is going to lead to your success. So it was a brilliant hour. It went, as I said it would, right, way too quickly. And maybe we'll return back at the end of the summer to hear about the travels to all the baseball studios, or not studios, stadiums. I think we're going to stadiums and not studios on that one. But, you know, maybe you'll see a few of our people there. Thank you all. I do want to remind everybody who's listening, we'll be back for the next Be On Air Forum on June 17th. But in between, we will have our content creator workshops on Monday night right here at the same place. So stay tuned. We'll blast it out there, but we really want you to be a part of it and grow with us. So thank you to this team. I love you. You're awesome. Have a good night.
Hi, guys.